Hey guys, just Warrior 100 here. Alright, and now with another classic monster movie review. Now here I am with a review for the original 1932 Mummy. So, yeah, I thought this movie was like a pretty good movie. I mean, it definitely did have like a really good setup to this, yeah. You may, if you've been subscribed to me for like the last couple of years, you may remember that a couple of years ago, oh, for October, well, during October, I did review like these two movies, the Stephen Sommers re- remake Mummy movies, and yeah, I did do, like these movies a lot. I do have like very high feelings for these films, so yeah, I grew up watching these. But yeah, of course, like they were the remake of this movie, and so yeah, this one overall, this is also like pretty good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely did this sort of does have kind of the same setup that the Stephen Sommers movie did, but I mean, it's not like they do kind of like there are like some different things that it does. Like, of course, like it does have some different characters to it. I mean, yeah, this movie really does have like a completely different cast of characters than the Stephen Sommers movie did. And yeah, the story for Imhotep in this movie, I mean, it is kind of like the same setup that the Stephen Sommers movie did. It have, but I mean, yeah, we kind of like dive a little bit more into like Imhotep's history in this film. And yeah, Imhotep is just like a lot more like he seems like not really like he doesn't really seem to be like as evil as he was in the Stephen Sommers movie, but yeah, he is definitely like really creepy. I mean, Boris Karloff once again is in stars in this film at Imhotep, and yeah, Boris Karloff is just like once again really great in this film. I mean, yeah, Boris Karloff is really just like a legendary performer in these types of movies, and yeah, Boris Karloff just knocks it out with this performance. I mean, yeah, Boris Karloff really is great. I mean, just like in the Stephen Sommers movie, like, despite the fact this title is called The Mummy, like, Imhotep is really, like, not the traditional mummy people would really think of in this. So, I mean, yeah, in this movie, he's really just like an actual mummy in, like, the first scene of the movie. And then for the rest, he's just, like, posing as a human. And, yeah, of course, like, in this film, Imhotep actually does speak English rather than, like, always speaking the ancient Egyptian language that is in the Stephen Sommers movies. So yeah, it is good that we don't really like have to just read off subtitles of everything he says, or like when subtitles don't appear, like we don't really know what he's saying, like in the Stephen Sommers films. So yeah, it's good to hear him speak English. Yeah, in this film, like Imhotep actually does like pose as another like modern Egyptian in this film, Ardith Bey, which of course was Oded Fehr's character in the Stephen Sommers films. And yeah, in this film, like really, as I said before, like Imhotep really like poses as Ardith Bey, like just a normal human for most of this film. And yeah, he's just like this entire film, like he has just like a bunch of wrinkles on his face and stuff. And so yeah, Boris Karloff really does like really have a great performance in this film once again. Yeah, at like four different points in this film, like there's like the shot of like Imhotep just like giving a death stare, and it just really is like a real intimidating shot. I mean, it can really like send some chills down your spine, and yeah, Boris Karloff just really great in this film. And yeah, overall, this is like a pretty good film overall. Yeah, yeah, I would probably give this, I don't know, 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, it definitely is like a really good movie. There are a lot of like some really like chilling scenes in this film, especially like when Imhotep first comes to life at the beginning of the film. I mean, it is like a real chilling thing. Just you see like his eyes just slowly open, and you don't actually see the full body when he comes to life. It just like shows his hand slowly grabbing the scroll in this film, and then when he walks off, you don't actually see him walking. You just see like a couple of the bandages being dragged off. So, yeah, you don't actually see the actual mummy body in this, and yeah, it does, like, in this film, it's not really like how it is in this first Stephen Sommers film, where, like, we see, like, Imhotep's life prior to becoming a mummy, and him being mummified, like, at the beginning of the film, like the Stephen Sommers movie did. Here, like, it's not shown until, like, really, like around like maybe around probably like a little past the halfway point of this film where it actually shows like Imhotep's backstory and stuff. So yeah, I really do like that. As this film starts, we really don't know a lot about Imhotep, and he's really mysterious. So yeah, this film actually does like keep Imhotep like more mysterious than the Stephen Sommers film did. Yeah, and plus also, like while I'm talking about this film, I mean, I should really say like how much of like a really like how much of like an impact this movie did leave. And yeah, this movie really did like start a real legacy in terms of mummy films. I mean, yeah, of course, like this was the very first mummy movie ever made. Hey, this was actually the original film, as I said, and yeah, this movie like eventually did end up like spawning several sequels to this film, even though like the sequels to this film really were like very loose sequels. Like none of the sequels really were connected to this film at all, and it also eventually like ended up spawning like a series of British mummy movies that really didn't have any connection either. Yeah, those British mummy movies like were just like really like standalone story films that really didn't have any connection with each other. Yeah, and of course like it also spawned the Stephen Sommers movies with these two films, and also it had the third film, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and then it also had ended up like spawning like the Mummy remake from this year, and oh gosh, I did not see the Mummy remake from this year. I mean, just watching the trailers alone made me not want to. I mean, it looked really stupid, and yeah, it really didn't do that well with critics or audiences either. So yeah, I'm probably like not missing out on anything, and yeah, just by my assumption that it's stupid, I get the strong feeling that I really am right. But yeah, so yeah, this film did really leave a big impact, and yeah, really did like this did like make call like a huge phenomenon, because yeah, this film like did just build a legacy with like the Mummy films. Oh yeah, and yeah, yeah. Of course, like people probably really don't think of this movie when they hear the like mummy movies. They probably do think of the Stephen Sommers films, but yeah, this film really should like get some more recognition now, because I mean, I don't think people really actually know like how many mummy movies are actually made, because I think they really just think of the Stephen Sommers films. But yeah, this film really did like leave a huge impact because of all the mummy movies I just talked about. It led to. So yeah, this really did like film really has left a big impact on the film industry, and yeah, it just is like a really good film. So yeah, let me just let's get right into it. Yeah, I'm probably like just gonna like skim through pretty fast, because I mean, there's really not much to the plot of this film. I mean, the plot for this film is like pretty simple overall, but yeah, it like does have a really good plot to it. But yeah, there's really like not much to the plot. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna skim through it like pretty quickly. All right, so the film opens up in the year 1921, and yeah, Sir Joseph Wemple like led an archaeological expedition, and they ended up like discovering a mummy, and it turned out like the mummy was Imhotep. Yeah, and as like Sir Joseph's friend, like Dr. Moeller, inspected the mummy, he like eventually like ended up revealing to Sir Joseph that the viscera wasn't removed from Imhotep, and he like also said that even though like he was actually like wrapped up like a traditional mummy, he was actually buried alive when he was mummified. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But despite like hearing all of this from um Dr. Muller, like Sir Joseph's assistant Norton, and like ended up like reading like a scroll that was actually buried with Imhotep, and it was known as the Scroll of Thoth. Yeah, yeah. and it ended up just like coming like like the writing on the scroll ended up like being like a spell to give Imhotep life, and so then as Norton like read the scroll, it then like brought Imhotep to life, and as I said earlier, Imhotep's like eyes were just slowly opening, and yeah, he had his arms in the traditional mummy position, and then yeah, it showed like his arms were slowly moving down, yeah, and yeah, he just like showed his hand slowly grabbing the scroll, and Norton then just saw Imhotep alive, and then he was just like in horror at first, but then once Imhotep ran off, like Norton just felt that he was going insane, just like really gave a real maniacal laugh, yeah. And then it cut to about like 10 years later, and yeah, Imhotep was now like masquerading as like Ardith Bey, yeah, and yeah, I should probably say like in this film, like of course, like Ardith Bey is not like the Magi warrior that he was in the Stephen Sommers films, and this one he's really just like a regular like ancient Egyptian resident. Yeah, basically like Imhotep as Ardith Bey here, he basically like has the same appearance that the Egyptologist from the Stephen Sommers film had. So yeah, that's really kind of like the appearance that Ardith Bey has in this film, rather than the warrior type of look in the Stephen Sommers film. Yeah, anyway. And then, like, he paid a visit to Sir Joseph's son Frank, along with, like, Professor Pearson. Yeah. And then he was speaking to them about, like, the tomb of the princess Anaxinamun. So yeah, in this film, Imhotep still does like want to bring Anaxinamun back to life because yeah, just like in the Stephen Sommers film, like Imhotep did like really have like a love for Anaxinamun, and yeah, he was trying to bring her back to life just like in the Stephen Sommers film. But yeah, he got caught, and then yeah, he was mummified as punishment for what he was trying to do. Yeah, and then the tomb was eventually found, and then it was just presented to the archaeologists as like well its treasures to the Cairo Museum. Yeah. And then like it was later on like revealed that there was another woman, Helen Grosvenor, and yeah, Imhotep like was recognizing her, and she like had a really strong resemblance to Anaxinamun. And then Imhotep eventually like ended up discovering that Helen was actually like the Anaxinamun now in her new life. It was kind of like how it was shown like in The Mummy Returns how Evie was actually like had a previous life as the Pharaoh's daughter, along with like Anaxinamun did, and Mummy Returns she now had a new life with Mila and stuff, and then yeah, Imhotep then just reminded her of that, and then she brought back Anaxinamun and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and that was like in this with like Helen in her old life was Anaxinamun. Yeah. And Imhotep then was just like then putting like Helen under his control and stuff because yeah, Imhotep was like had like a hiding spot or something in like the town museum, and then like he like had a portal or something that he could watch through for like other people and stuff. Yeah. And it showed that he like at one point like once like Sir Joseph, Dr. Muller, and Frank eventually ended up discovering like more about Imhotep, and then like they discovered that Imhotep really was an evil curse, and they would have to destroy the scroll. Yeah. At one point, as like Sir Joseph actually was trying to burn the scroll, Imhotep was watching from his portal, and yeah, through his portal he just like used like powers through it, and he just ended up like killing Sir Joseph. Yeah. And eventually, like, he put Helen under his control again, and yeah, he just ended up, like, bringing her over to the museum, and then, yeah, Imhotep was then just showing Helen, like, the flashbacks of their previous life, and it was showing that Anaxinamun, like, ended up, like, dying, and then, yeah, Imhotep then, like, stole the scroll from, like, this from a goddess statue, Isis, and yeah, apparently like that was considered like sacrilege, and Imhotep got caught with it trying to bring Anck-su-namun to life, and then yeah, Imhotep was then like condemned to be mummified alive, and then it showed like Imhotep then being wrapped in the bandages and eventually being placed in the sarcophagus. But unlike the Stephen Sommers film, they don't actually like put any scarabs or anything to like eat Imhotep alive or stuff. They just like put wrap him up and put him in the sarcophagus, and then end up burying him, and they buried the scroll along with him to prevent any other sacrilege from happening. Yeah. Yeah, and then eventually later on like it was then like shown that like Imhotep was actually planning to actually he like kill Helen and then end up mummifying her and then resurrect her to bring back Anck-su-namun and stuff and make her his bride. Yeah, and like as Dr. Moeller and Frank were trying to actually protect Helen. Like, Imhotep used his powers again, and he ended up, like, knocking out Frank, and then he put Helen under his control again and brought her back to the museum. And then he, like, dressed her as the Princess Anck-su-namun, or, well, not princess, but yeah, Anck-su-namun, yeah. And then, yeah, then after Dr. Moeller ended up finding Frank, they then discovered Imhotep's plans, and then they rushed to the museum to try to stop Imhotep and save Helen, yeah. And then it then showed like Imhotep like had Helen just under his control so much that she just like was gonna let Imhotep do whatever he needed to do to her to bring Anck-su-namun back. But then, yeah, Frank and Dr. Moeller end up arriving at the museum, and then that's when like they ended up like snapping Helen out of it, and then yeah, Helen then was just praying to the Isis statue to try to save her, and then eventually Frank and Dr. Moeller ended up like running into the museum, and then yeah, then the statue of Isis then like came back to life, and then was like raising its arm, and then just like emitting a beam of light right around the room, and then it ended up like catching the scroll of Thoth on fire, and then as a result of that, it ended up just breaking the spell. Well, that gave Imhotep life again, and then yeah, it just then like caused Imhotep to basically just decay and just crumble down. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, Dr. Moeller then just ended up like calling, well, yeah, Dr. Moeller and Frank, and just calling Helen back to the world of living, and then it just then showed the scroll continuing to burn, and then it just showed then Imhotep's like rotting corpse, and then yeah, it's just ended like that. So yeah, another abrupt ending. Like I said, that seems to be these movies' weakness, but yeah, I think I've talked about that enough, so I don't think I need to complain anymore about that. But yeah, so then that's how the movie ended. So yeah, 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, definitely like a really good movie and a great performance from Boris Karloff once again. And yeah, everybody else in the film, they were all pretty good too. So yeah, this is definitely like a really good movie. I mean, it definitely deserves more recognition today because yeah, like I said earlier, this film really did like has really just left a big impact to spawn like all the sequels and other movie series that it has. So yeah, it definitely like is a real big movie in the film industry, and yeah, it is like just even like at its own thing, it is still like a really good movie too. So yeah, even so yeah, if you haven't seen this before, I definitely recommend it. Yeah, if you like I said before, you're probably just like a like know or familiar with these mummy movies, especially like if you're part of this generation stuff, or like if you're like around my age range, you're probably like are familiar with those, and you probably think of those more. But yeah, yeah, even like if you're familiar with those, definitely like check this out and see like this is like a really good one too, and this definitely like does deserve the recognition that I have talked about before. So yeah, definitely like a really good movie. Alright, so yeah, that does it for my review of the original 1932 Mummy. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, so yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.